up for our next speaker, Dr. Karoush Parsapour, founder of WheatRex. So Dr. Parsapour has over 15 years of experience in pediatrics and critical care. His background in technology-enabled healthcare solutions started in 2005 at UC Davis. His research and numerous publications in telemedicine culminated in his first startup, Telepeds. Specialists on Call, the leading provider of telestroke services, acquired Telepeds within its first year. Subsequent to his successful exit, he obtained his healthcare executive MBA from UC Irvine and co-founded two digital health startups, 5plus and Personal RN, or PRN. He is currently the CEO of PRN, which provides disease-specific M-Health education that is personalized to the needs of patients and their caregivers. In late 2016, PRN applied its unique patient assessment and education platform as a new vertical in the cannabis industry to address the physician shortage, which exists in evaluating medical marijuana patients. The platform evolved into the current clinical decision support software, CannDSS, which will soon be available nationwide to assist physicians in providing efficient and more accurate patient evaluations. Welcome, Dr. Parsapour.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Brad. Again, thank you for inviting me. Can you guys see me okay? Is this working okay? Yeah, okay. All right. I'm actually I have a little deck I prepared for you guys, and I'm kind of just gonna tell a little story, and let's see if I can actually get the deck working now. My topic is going to be basically talking about legitimizing the use of medical cannabis, because right now there's, obviously there's a lot of stigmas attached with its use, and there's a lot of doctors that won't, they kind of shy away from the whole thing. That said, the reason for it is it's multifactorial, and that's kind of what I'm going to dive into. But I was gonna, here we go. Can you guys see this? Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to basically use our startup, WheatRex, which is in various phases of its evolution, basically talk about how we've employed evidence-based practices with the aim of always wanting to legitimize the medical use of cannabis and get it to where it needs to be as a medication. So right now we're at a very unique point in our species timeline where this is the very first time ever in our species that there are more people over the age of 55 than there are under the age of 55, which means that people are living longer, but they're not necessarily living healthier. And as we age and the ailments build up, the need for medical attention is going to increase. And you can see by the supply and demand curve, unfortunately, the amount of there's a steady state of doctors, but yet there's this rapid increase of patients and their needs. And one of the ways that basically I wanted to address this issue, which is eventually in about 10, 15 years, it's going to be a major crisis, was to use technology, relevant technology, to either improve access to care, to improve the quality of care, or to reduce the cost of care. That's basically the idea behind what we do. My partner and I, Andrew Thomas, he's a technical co-founder, and he's been very much involved in some of the stuff that we're doing that I'm going to show you guys. Now, this physician shortage is even more exaggerated in our industry. And the reason for it is basically because, again, let me just go on. There you go. Doctors are they don't teach us anything about cannabis in medical school. They don't. I didn't even know there was an endocannabinoid system that existed until I actually got into this endeavor. There's a lot of social stigma attached with it. There's biases, as you guys well know. So it's hard to find physicians that are qualified and actually know what they're doing. And so this was a major gap that we started seeing. Sorry, I'll leave this on for 2 more seconds just in case. And there was a huge gap that existed, especially in California, because there was a lot of doctors that were coming in with like tennis shoes and shorts and baseball caps and giving you a recommendation. You just walk in and say, my nipple hurts, and they'd be like, here you go, here's a rec. And unfortunately, the problem with it was not only were they not evaluating patients effectively, but they were also charging ridiculous prices. So basically, we aggressively came into the market with an ad campaign like this. And we got some heat for it, but it definitely made a splash. And in 2016, we launched. And basically our competitors' prices can be seen here around, 50, 60, $70. And we came in at $9.99. And the reason we were able to reduce the cost like that, so we were basically $10, was because a lot of the intake, a lot of the basic assessment that would be done was automated. And what we built was a dynamic and a very personalized patient experience, but something that was clinically relevant. I mean, we all go to a hospital or clinics, and they ask you the same 15 questions over and over and over again, and you're like, as a guy, you're filling out, no, NA, I'm not pregnant, and it's ridiculous. So, anytime we have the belief structure that if you're engaging, if you're engaging with a touch point on an app, on a screen, there should be a reason you're doing that, and it should drive a doctor's decision one way or another. And so with that, the first thing we did was we immediately automated a lot of the contraindications. This is now, again, keep in mind, we're doing this because we wanted to have a standard of care. We wanted to have evidence-based information in the way we treat our patients. So the contraindications were really easy. Are you pregnant? Are you breastfeeding? Are you trying to have a baby? And that's kind of iffy. There's debate about that. But there are things that a lot of the doctors weren't asking for. Like if you're under 25 years of age and you have a first-degree family member who has schizophrenia, you run the risk of having your first psychotic episode and going into a bad situation for the rest of your life. Bipolar disorders, if you're actively suicidal. So we really addressed the mental health elements really quickly. And then we went into the more social elements that might be a factor if you have a medical marijuana recommendation. Like, what if you have chemical dependence? What if you're in rehab? What if you're an alcoholic? What if you have probation or parole restrictions on using cannabis? Maybe you have kids at home and there's an active CPS investigation going on, or you've had a DUI just 6 weeks earlier. So these were things that we started peppering in there, and we started noticing that, we're really building something of value here. So then we started building in actual screening tools. These are the same screening tools I would use in the ER to evaluate my patients. So, we put in a depression screening tool and then ended up building a suicidality index. To date, we've actually been able to avert 57 active suicides. And I didn't do that in my entire career in the ER. So that in and of itself made me feel good and made me feel that, okay, we might be onto something, because patients were also responding. A lot of patients with undiagnosed mental health disorders that have never been evaluated by a patient, by a physician, that have never felt comfortable to talk about it. The anonymity of our website allowed them to engage and do so comfortably. And we would get forms that were completely filled out and more, and sharing with us very personal, very deep, detailed information. And they were just looking for help. Anxiety screens, ADHD, post-traumatic, I spelled that wrong, I'm sorry. And then we went into the basics, like blood pressure screening, cholesterol, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, where for smokers, addiction medicine. If we started doing patient education. If you had a child under 6 years of age, we made you read safety protocols. So how to safely put your weed away so the kids wouldn't get into it, your pets wouldn't get into it. What if you had atrial fibrillation, a common arrhythmia that happens in older people, and which, by the way, is the fastest growing population in cannabis. And if grandma has AFib, well, with atrial fibrillation, a clot can form in your heart and it can shoot off to your brain, resulting in a stroke. So the way you treat that is you put these patients on anticoagulants. Well, if grandma's already getting lightheaded and she's on an anticoagulant, she's a risk for falling and seriously hurting herself, and she smokes some of the current strains that are out there, it gets even more lightheaded. Well, if she falls and hits her head and has an intracranial hemorrhage, we have a real problem on our hands. So it's not as simple. It's not as easy as people make it out to be. You're just going to get weed. Well, there's some real issues. If we want to treat it like a medicine, we have to respect it like a medicine. And as the the person before mentioned erectile dysfunction, it's not just an extended erection. It's priapism. And for the men in the audience, I don't think you want to part with your member. So and then from there we went on to patient education. We started we started building tools that patients could use to translate numbers into sensible awareness and instruction, heart healthy lifestyles, telling kids, hey, if you're under 25, your brain's still developing. Maybe you might not want to smoke some weed. Multiple sclerosis, asthma, stroke. So suddenly we had something that was very, very robust, and it started to, and patients were coming. Word of mouth was going. We started putting using ad space on weed maps. But as you can see, somewhere around like June or July of 2017, there's this dip, and that was just basically I didn't have the capability to manage all the patients that were coming at me, so I had to build something. And so what happened here? There we go. So what I built was a clinical decision support software, or called it a cannabis decision support software, or Cannabis as we call it at work. And basically, Cannabis was able to automate. We quantified the patient's responses and assigned it some clinical scores based on my experience in 15, 20 years at the hospital, and then basically there were some evaluations that were just slam dunks that fell in the green zone, other ones that fell in the yellow zone that I would call, get involved with, and the red zones were automatic disqualifications. So suddenly 2/3 of my workload was addressed in an efficient manner. And this is a fundamental element of physician shortages. One of the reasons that we have so many non-clinical things to do, if we can take some of that away from us from the use of oh, sorry, am I going over? So basically that let me go this way. So just to demonstrate scale, we were, relative to Presto Doc that did 15, that had, used 15 physicians to see 40,000 patients in 36 months, which we achieved in 2 years, in 3 years as well, but with only 2 physicians using this system. Then we realized, wow, this can really help doctors and their physician shortages. So we decided to go go across the country, but we don't have the connections. And so I'm very proud to announce formally today that starting next week we're starting to collaborate with Healy, and we're going to be using Healy's doctors to get our intake process in 11 different states. And we hope that, and that'll basically drive the patients towards more physicians. The value of this obviously becomes the output that we've created for our current process is it immediately trims the fat and gives the doctors exactly what they need to know in that right there MD attention summary page. They can see all the data if they want, but it provides it to them. So we've now gone from user-friendly for the patients to user-friendly for the doctors, improving efficiencies. And basically, phase 3 of our distribution, we're going to be building a mobile app solution under the personal RN flag, and basically it'll start at diagnosing the patient, evaluating what they need in terms of what type of cannabis and what even up to where to get it and what strains and what doses. And thank you very much. My information's there. I'm happy to take any questions at any point later. But thanks for the opportunity to speak.